Garrain Asé, powerful speaker, international speaker, coach, transformational leader. What does it take for a coach or a healer to transform themselves, but also transform other people's lives?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. So grateful for the bravery that it takes to even start something like this, so that stories and just guidance like mine has wings. Um, but to answer your question, it takes not seeing yourself as a coach or a guru or any title, and just remembering that the essence of life is growth. And the greatest leaders that I've ever come across are students and leaders simultaneously. So I am always learning. I learn from a rock. I learn from a baby. I learn from somebody that everybody says is an ultimate failure because you can learn what not to do. So I'm always looking for ways to grow. And when you are in receivership of constantly evolving, no judgment, just like, oh, like, wow, that's really awesome. How did you do that? Without ego involved, all of a sudden, you learn all these lessons. And my frame of teaching, I will never teach something that I didn't apply myself and get a result from. So the things that I share are tried, tested, and true. But I didn't set out to be a coach. I didn't set out to be this transformational leader. My life was screwed. I set out to just simply just find my spark again, find my joy again. And then in the light of that, people are like, yo, I'm so inspired. How'd you do that? Well, if 1,000 people keeps asking you the same question, maybe the prayers of God, tell me what I'm supposed to do next. And all of a sudden 1,000 people reach out. Maybe the lesson is not to title yourself anything in order to be able to prime yourself to listen to the guidance and direction yourself. And if you can listen to the guidance and direction yourself, you will get the exact fundamentals on how to be an elite level coach, trainer, facilitator, or anything like that, because the lessons got to come through you first.
Where what is the process that you've personally used to integrate those lessons? Because we were talking right now about, for example, clothing and my energetic signature right now. But what is your process of taking a lesson from a mentor, from a coach,
Yeah.
from someone else, integrating it into your own life?
Yes. I'm an integrator. Somebody tells me something, when it resonates with me, you don't have to ask me again. Hey, did you get that done? I'm like, if this is going to improve my life, my family, my money, my business, oh, all you need to do is give me a centimeter of an open door. Consider it done. As a matter of fact, not consider it done. I will done and I will come back with results. Thank and gratitude for you taking the time for pouring your life force in me. So my thing is, I'm the ultimate humble student. And then I attract, or I will choose to only spend time with those who are actually ready to be guided. And so I get to choose who I work with. Like, I'm sure Phil Jackson could have picked Allen Iverson, but he didn't. He picked Kobe. He picked Michael Jordan, two of the greatest of all times. Well, three of the greatest of all times, but two of them have a legacy of championships. And so I study the greatest coaches and the greatest players, and I study their character analysis. I study why great teams win, why this coach has the best winning record. How did he relate? Nobody knew until the Michael Jordan documentary came out, most people didn't know that Phil Jackson was considered a Zen master and was having them do yoga every day. Nobody knew that. They're like, why did they keep winning? They was on some other time, but I study those things. If you want to be great, study greatness. I don't need ego in the way. If somebody has a proven formula, I humble myself and I'm like, how did you do that? Well, success leaves clues. So I study success and I study the characteristics and I study the mindset that develops the skill over time. And if I can get a fraction of that, a fraction, it'll be a light years different than who I was when I thought I knew it all. And a lot of coaches think they know it all from one workshop that they took, and they were like, "Oh, I'm the best. I'm like, yep, you're the best at being the worst because now you just edged yourself out of the studentship and seeking and being able to even see mentorship everywhere you look with somebody who has what you don't have."
And I love those two things. First is edging God out for the ego, but then the first thing that I heard you say was fast implementation. As soon as you get something that resonates with you, is fast implementation. And
And I want to iterate that resonates with me. It's that and a lot of things don't resonate with me, even if it's like, oh my goodness, this guy has done $150 million in sales in one day and da da da. You got to do his exact formula. Yep. 94% of my clientele is women. 94% of his clientele is drunk men. It's you can scare the shit out of them. And you don't do that to women. They've been living in, a lot of them living in fear, not feeling safe in the presence of another masculine man their entire life. So the approach in how women feel held and me feeling safe in my own body and my language is way different. Now, the fundamentals of the formula I can duplicate, but I'm not doing exactly what that is when my audience is completely different. And that's just having an oversight over who you're talking to.
how can someone, eh, you coach or attract a lot of women, right? Was that something that you decided or it just naturally came your way?
When I was a little kid, from as early as I can remember, 6, 7 years old, I would hear girls say, boys are not allowed. Garrain, you can stay. I didn't know what that meant, but that's been happening my whole life. Now, when I didn't understand what that was, it always turned into something sexual. I didn't know what that was. But as I started to develop emotional intelligence and find my own emotional sovereignty and safety in my body, oh, wait a second. I'm now seeing that women were forced into this a lot of unhealthy energy from the male's perspective, and they didn't have a voice, they couldn't vote. There was a lot of rights that they couldn't have, and so then it developed the reverse effect of this, like, I'm a boss bitch, and like all that whole energy is that a man and a woman's body, but it's not even designed for that system to flow in the essence of the true magic of a woman. And so what I've had to learn, and I had to learn the hard way, is to be the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. That's how I got the relationship back with my daughter, who's 24. And the more and more time I spent with her, I was like, wait, no, this is a completely different system. I've got to do what I say I'm going to do, call when I say I'm going to call, show up when nobody's expecting me to show up, and be disciplined in my word, and just bring my full self because they can sense when you're not present. And so it was through desperately wanting a relationship with my daughter that I learned what women actually want. They want to feel seen, heard, and like they matter in the world. I never brought that to anybody. So in some weird way, there was a force and a presence in my life that was designed to teach me how to do what I am now doing with the same fundamentals and the skill sets that I learned. I attracted my wife. Now I have another daughter who's 4, Soul. Now I have a son, and I get to teach him through example how I treat his mother, how I treat his sister. And so now I'm raising this generation of man. And, we come up in a society where it's just like, oh, you need to be a man. Well, 78% of all suicides come from men. We don't have it figured out because we grow up in a society where it says, oh, uh, real men don't cry. The most powerful men I've ever met are not afraid to cry. And the moment I became vulnerable and I developed the capacity to not care what anybody thinks, if somebody sees me crying, real tears, real pain. First message I got on social media in 2013, thank you for your strength. I put the gun down when I read your testimony. And I was like, wait a second. I've always been taught that vulnerability is weakness. But you mean to tell me that is a superpower and it just saved somebody's life, and that I could blend that in with my superhero-like strength? Oh, and I can also alchemize accepting the feminine inside of me because we all have both polars inside of us, and I don't have to cut one side. How can you be embodied if you don't accept your full self? You're made from your mom and your dad. So if you cut one side off, you're like just operating one side. So to make a long story short, there was a relationship in my life that I desperately wanted that taught me how to be the kind of leader for the type of people that I serve mostly. And that hidden nugget was already in my life. I was just willing to do what most won't. Open up every single scary and fear-based door in that relationship and show up fully no matter what. And that gave me all the skills to be able to do what I'm doing now.
Mm.
So now with men, I just help them develop, I don't say the feminine inside of them, but develop them their full selves without leaving anything on the table. Why would you do that? It doesn't even make sense.
And speaking about men, what makes them like cover up this feminine so much?
It's just it's not our fault as men. It's how we're raised. It's what society says. It's what propaganda says. I remember growing up here. Real men have hair on their chest, and real men and da 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 da, and real men and boys don't cry, and all that. You start hearing these things over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Here's the power of the mind. I remember I wanted to stay home from school when I was 12 or 13. And there was nothing wrong with me. This is before I knew what manifestation was, or you can speak things into reality. And I remember saying, Mom, I'm sick. Mom, I'm sick. I'm sick. And I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the instant gratification from my mom, the white Vicks vapor rub on my neck. Oh, Mom, I'm sick. She's making me chicken noodle soup. By the end of the day, I had 103 fever and I'm throwing up. Wait a second. That's one day of lying to myself. I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm sick. Death and life is at the power of the tongue. So as I've grown in consciousness, I realize it's really important to watch what you say. And you might think you're telling the truth, but the truth might be a lie that you told yourself a long time ago, and you start believing these lies, and then your life is a physical manifestation of what's going on inside. So you might have to lie to yourself again to remember the actual truth and remember that you are actually born in joy. Every child, just look at every child, and then something goes away. So this is what happens. It's a domesticated trait that I believe is purposely done upon us so that we don't really reach our potential. As for the drugs, the sex, the over-sexualizing, alcohol, rape, pedophilia, porn, all of those are forms of expression. But the only reason why unhealthy forms of expression start to surface is because the healthy ones never internally was given permission to express. It's going to come out somehow.
Now let's shift back to one of your superpowers. I probably consider you one of the best storytellers that I know. And wanted and I've heard a bunch of stories in your workshop, in your retreats,
Yep.
like you tell really powerful stories. How can someone learn to tell powerful stories like you do?
Well, first, I mean, and I've created workshops called Speakers Boot Camp where I work on people. They're like, I don't have a story. I'm like, no, you just don't know what you have. You're sitting on a gold mine looking for abundance. And here's an analogy I know people can relate to. You've got to get the puzzle pieces out of the box first before you can put them together. But when you dump the puzzle pieces out, are they in perfect order? What do they look like?
Just a mess.
Okay, so you've got to get every story that you can line up. When I was 12, this happened. When I was 13, this happened. When I was 14, oh, it's not that. And how stories work. Stories aren't just stories. They're recalls of memory, which means you got to go into the frontal cortex of your brain, which unlock motor sensories that fire those sensories sometimes, and you just got to go in there and be like, what date was that? What was, and you're thinking, but the way sensories work in the brain is the same way Facebook works. You haven't talked about a friend in a long time, and all of a sudden you go searching for, and then you find that friend on Facebook, and what happens? They were like, you might know these 5 people. So you go on their pages, and then all of a sudden you friend them, and they're like, you might know these 5 people. Our neurons work the same way. But if you're not firing even around the neuron, then it's just lying dormant until you get even remotely close. So that's why when you start, it's like, oh, when I was 13, I remember these guys that were killing people in the neighborhood. They were drowning dogs and kids, and you don't think stories like, you don't think nothing like that would ever happen to you because you just see it in movies. Next thing you know, I'm playing baseball in the cul-de-sac with my friend Derek Duncan, and these 3 guys that I didn't know were the guys that were killing people, I knew them. They were my cousin's friends, so of course that's safe to me because they're my cousin's friends and they've been over my cousin's house. And they were like, hey, there's some trout in the bayou. I was too young to know. There was no damn trout in the bayou, which is like it's a body of water that runs through the city. And so my friend Derek says, don't leave. He never told me they tried to drown him the week before. Yeah. And so next thing you know, I go in the middle of the baseball game and I run to the end of the block, go to the right, go to the left. And I'm like, where's the trout? They're like, you got to look closer. I'm like, I don't see him. They was like, you got to look closer. I said, I don't see him. Look closer. And there was something about the tone of his voice and something that happened inside of me. I was like, oh my God, these are the people that have been, and before I even finished the thought, I'm inside of the bayou, flipped over inside of a whirlpool, being sucked into the tunnel. Anything that gets sucked into the tunnel goes on the other side of the street, and that's how they were dying. I couldn't swim at that time. So I'm literally twirling in the thing, in the whirlpool, and I let go. That water is dark. It's not the clear blue Miami Beach in 2000 water, Turks and Caicos water. A hand comes out of nowhere and just grabs me as I'm being sucked into the thing, pulls me up just enough, and I look up and I don't see nobody. That's a story. You see what I'm saying? How engaged you were? But it didn't start like that. And I'm like, wait, around 13, and what else happened when I was 13? What else happened when I was 13? And once you start doing that, you take a big whiteboard with no rhyme or reason or order and write out all of the stories that you can recall and the age. The time I was molested, the time I went to juvenile, the time I was in high school at a new school, not there long enough to know enough people, and I'm in school suspension because I got in trouble, and they were listing off the nominees for the homecoming king. And I was like, I'm just joking because I was a class clown. And I was like, and the next nominee, and I was like, Garrain. And they said my name. I was like, what? I was joking. That's another story. You see how that works? That's why I can pull out, because people 20 years from now, they're not going to remember here's the 7 steps to success. It's proven. They're going to remember the story. So if you can take those 7 steps and put them in the story and then tell them what they heard with the steps, they'll never forget the story. And that's how you embed the lessons inside of the story.
That is a really masterful technique. I hope people go back and understand that framework, because that right there will make you a whole better storyteller and leader.
100%. Because the stories are the gateways to relatability, and people listen to who they relate to, and they don't even have to relate to your exact story. I know you've never been to prison for 2.5 years or manifested your way out of a 12-year prison sentence, but I'm sure you've been in a relationship you know you don't want to be in, and you stayed in it for 2.5 years. That is prison. So when I tell my prison story, I also weave in other things that feel like prison. Now they're like, holy crap, we're not so different.
Yeah.
But this is years of storytelling and embedding the lessons inside of it, pulling the lessons out, and then sharing how you can apply it to your own life and produce a result.
Going back to the years part, a lot of coaches are starting out and they position this, okay, I want to be a coach. But there is a gap or a space where they are currently training, but they also want clients.
Yeah.
And what would you say to them in terms of the expectation of actually getting the results as a coach?
What I would do is start free. Do not sell your services when you're starting out. What you're doing is you want something that's worth more than money, which is data. You need data. You need feed forward. I don't call it feedback. You need feed forward. You need to hear somebody say, you changed my life about 10 times. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap. It's like, well, you do. I change people's life for a living. Well, how do you do that? Like, I have a coach. I mean, there was a billionaire guy that just, I have this offer where they paid me 6 figures for the day, but it's for a specific type of person. It's like, why would anybody pay you 6 figures for the day? I said, because I create magical unlocks. And he said, well, what's a magical unlock? I said, it's different for different people. I knew he had a son. I was like, how's your relationship with your son? And he was like, man, no matter how much money I have, I cannot buy connection with him. And I said, so what would you do if I had one conversation with him within 15 minutes? It planted a seed that gave you the opportunity to start the connection that your money can't buy. And then within 2 months, y'all had that connection. What would that be worth to you? He said, man, I'd be willing to pay anything. I said, welcome to the magical unlock. He said, where do I sign up? So what you do is you show people what you do. Everybody's business card should be a showing card. When you go to the grocery store and then you get the free cheese, damn, this is good. Where's the rest of the box? Don't tell them what you do. Show them what you do. And don't wait. So what do? Bum, 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 bum. Wow, that's amazing. And then you tell them what you do. Yeah. That's one. But so that you can develop your own confidence, not something where you feel like you're punching above your weight class and you're wondering why your price points are not matching your own worthiness because you're way out of alignment. You don't have enough wins under your belt. So what's way more than money, because your energy is worth more than your money, is the first 4 to 5 should be absolutely free in exchange for a testimonial. 3 to 4 minute landscape testimonial, and then you can work out on all the kinks, get the feedback, get the feed forward, and then these are your beta people, these are your beta clients. And then all of a sudden they change. You get the testimonial, put that on your landing page, and now other people are speaking for you. You don't have to speak for yourself. That's what I suggest every new coach in the field get wins under your belt, develop the confidence, get the testimonials. Now when you say, this is what I do, you got 4 people that confirm exactly what you do. So now it's not you speaking for yourself, it's other people speaking on behalf, and you have the testimonial to prove it.
So necessary. Now, for a coach that now is a little bit more advanced, is now starting to do workshops, right? Something really, really powerful that you did was around safety.
Yep.
How important is safety when you're now working with more than one people?
Well, the thing about it is, it's why people, it's why a certain percentage of people do psilocybin journeys with a safe guide present, because that creates, it dissolves the ego, and having a safe guide present, it creates the safety in the nervous system, and then the healing and then the transformation or the trauma comes through. That's why it's not like, I want to be in psychedelics. It's like, but people aren't going to speak on that. They just hear psychedelics and they instantly think drug. No, it's there's a ceremonial aspect. That's not something that's in any of my programs. I've done it before, and I was like, wait, this is the same thing I do, just get there faster. But why do you get there faster? Because it dissolves the ego, and then you get to the safety the fastest in your body. I was like, well, why don't I just find safety in my body, free from any plant medicine, and then curate an environment that fosters the safety? Let me see what happens. 100%. I mean, a retreat that had 85 people, typically it's like 4 or 5 people that had this giant big thing, but 85 people, 100% transformed. They're like, what is so different about your programs? I said, you probably haven't experienced somebody stand in front of the room. They said, if there's any sexual leaky energy from any of my staff members and any student to student, anything like that, you're out. There's no refund. You'll never come back again. And I'll say it up front, because the same safety that's required in the space is the type of safety I never had in my life. But when I have that level of safety, I'm more of a divine channel. I can be used by God in a much higher capacity. But that same safety is the same safety that most women that I have coached said, I've never felt safe in the presence of another masculine man who doesn't want anything. So it seems like it was 3 different worlds happening simultaneously. So I was like, well, the highest priority is safety, but I first got to be safe in my own body. So there's no alcohol, there's no sexual speaking and thinking. Like within 3 weeks after the event is over, and then people got to sign off on it. Well, why do you do that? But I just, no. When you open up like that, you can't possibly think fully while you're still integrating. So it takes 2 to 3 weeks to integrate when you're releasing trauma or releasing all these different things. So we built it inside of our ecosystem. And if it's not something that you can sign off on, then you can't be in our program. And it's that if the coaches that are on our staff cannot embody that, you definitely can't be a part of anything that I do. And if somebody goes against the agreement, you'll never be asked to come back. And I've learned that's why the results happen the way that they are. The safer people feel in their body, the deeper the transformation. The deeper the transformation. You got to dig deep to build high. They don't build skyscrapers on a surface. So if you want to go deeper in your subconscious mind, how safe are you willing to be? And that is something I can bank on every time out. And anytime there's a falter or a slip or something, we take accountability, and it was like, well, this is what we're doing. Because a lot of coaches and a lot of leaders, they don't take personal responsibility, blame other people. So anything that's on me, I will handle it, and I'll take it. Give me the feed forward, because I'm always trying to better myself.
Thank you for creating those experiences.
Of course.
Going back now to your team, right?
Yep.
What's your experience as you're starting to grow as a coach and building that team together?
Well, one, it's not about the best. I don't care about having the best people, because a lot of the best people don't know how to work on a team. I study character analysis. That's what I do. I study how you respond when you're impatient. I study how you respond when you're working for free. I study how you respond when there's pay involved. I study so many different things. What happens when things are going on in your life, and who you're coaching, and how that plays out. I study all that stuff because I've had so much people data. I got my start in business and entrepreneurship and in direct sales. And I guided an organization of 75,000 people over a decade, continuously growing over a year. So I just got data on many. It doesn't matter the business, it's the people data. What works, what doesn't work, what failed, what didn't, what sustained over a long period of time. And the people that sustained over a long period of time had a very similar attribute. And the people who were really talented and attracted a bunch of really talented, selfish people had a very exact same attitude, because attitude reflects leadership. So in having this database of a back office that I can see clearly what works, what doesn't work when it comes to leading, organization, product analysis, attitude analysis, how you work on a team. I need to be the person that's seen. When it comes to team, a lot of really powerful leaders have a team of followers. And very few leaders have a team of leaders. And I learned this from John C. Maxwell. And the difference is night and day. The leader who's only successful by themselves, while everybody else is not growing, has a deep need to feel needed. They'll never say it. Why am I not getting that attention? Why is it not? And those are the background conversations. But the leaders who are surrounded by other powerful leaders, the desire is different. They want to be exceeded. So a leader that develops leaders will go out of their way to make sure that other people are winning. Whether it's referrals, whether it's proximity, whether it's like being a helping hand. And my aim is I want them to be more successful in a lot less time than it took me. It took me 17 years. I want you to do it in 2. So I'm going to teach you everything that I learned by example. And so for me, that's what it comes to, leading a team of leaders. And it's rare. Even some of the most powerful people that have $350 million organizations, they're running the program as I have a deep need to feel needed. So their badge of honor is how much the company scaled. Some of these people I coach, so I don't talk about who my one-on-one clients are. And so when I'm holding space for someone who has a deep need to feel needed with a $350 million organization is actually doing the reverse of what they want to happen. So before you climb the wrong mountain, let's just get everything acclimated. And if the success happens fast, at least you will be attuned. And if it happens slower, at least you'll have patience, which is one of the highest forms of leadership.
Now, going back to leading yourself, how can one start with that?
I mean, what you eat, what you listen to, who you hang out with, like who you choose to surround yourself around, who you choose to be in your life, like how your kids respond to life. Like when somebody says, "Oh my goodness, look at this person, look at it," I'm like, "Yeah, he cheats on his wife. What do you want me to look at?" I could probably learn a thing or two from business, but I'm in for the totality of life. Everything I teach can apply to every area of your life. Every area. I don't want to teach something that applies to one area while you overcompensate for the other areas. And so, and this is just I could be wrong, but man, I feel good in my body. There's a level of joy. Like my wife, Kundalini awakened. My kids are thriving. And I'm not going to say what more can I ask for, because I've already surpassed my wildest dreams. So this is all bonus. And what I care about in this coaching industry is that people are leading people from a safe space. You're not just out there just doing anything, because people just take advantage of anything. Yeah. And and then also holding these people accountable that are giving out these certificates. They're like, yeah, become trauma certified over the weekend, online. What? So you're just going to let it be just in your cerebral? It's not integrated in their body? Yep, I'm trauma certified level 1 and 2. It happened in 2 days. You're not going to be one of our coaches. So it's also being on the lookout for things like that as well. And so it's not about the certifications. It's about who's living in integrity and who's not. And I've been somebody who wasn't living in integrity, and I've been somebody who does everything he can to live in integrity. But when you live in alignment, things that are aligned start happening. When you live out of alignment, things that are out of alignment start happening, including your sales, including your money. And I just went through 8 months of being out of alignment until I remembered, oh, hold on. I stopped doing this and this and this and this. I've been out of integrity here. I haven't had this conversation. Why is this person working for the company when I know deep down inside I wanted them gone 2 years ago? So I was so far out of alignment. So I'm not just up here and be like, woe is me. Like, no, it gets the best of us. The difference is I'm not afraid to talk about me being out of alignment and owning it. And here's what I learned. And here's what I'm committed to moving forward. That is leadership. Even in your weakest moments, is how do you lead yourself out? How do you lead yourself in? Through your health habits, through your family habits, through who you choose to surround yourself around. And that is, if you can't lead yourself, you will not have the skill set to lead other people.
Let's talk now around artist power.
Yeah.
What is artist power?
Aha. In a divine sense, I was meditating one day and I said, show me what I'm supposed to do on behalf of humanity. I feel like something is missing. Ancestors, God. It wasn't that dramatic, but it's for the camera. Ancestors, God, show me what I'm supposed to do. And I'm sitting in my friend's living room, who just recently passed away. He just sending so much love to Sheila and Patty and her family. But I was sitting in her living room. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, God, what am I missing? There's something missing. Look at my wife, look at my family, look at my money, look at my life. There's something missing. Show me what I'm supposed to do on behalf of humanity. 20 minutes later, all of a sudden, artist power. I'm like, what's that? But it sounded good as it came up in my consciousness. I said, Garrain, it's been a part of everything that you've ever done. And I'm like having a conversation with self. I'm like, what? You'll be at a party and somebody asks you, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm a transformation coach. And then all of a sudden you'll have this energy come up inside that says, go and drum or go and sing in front of everybody. Yeah, okay. What happens 20 minutes later? What happens 10 minutes later? All these people start coming to the dance floor. Garrain, what you've missed is what happens after you follow that energy. You become a permission slip to give yourself permission to the things you used to love to do as a child. And it literally said, you're going to create a retreat called Artist Power Awaken. And then all these artists and creators and entrepreneurs that just want to unblock themselves and be able to create from full potentiality. And I'm asking, how? That's how we started out as kids. But Garrain, that's been a part of everything that you've ever done that has worked your entire life. It was so obvious, I couldn't even see it. I'm like, oh, that's what that was. I dance and I sing and I play, and then people will come up and be like, I wish I could do that. You can. I got really good at being able to teach permission by way of example and teach logistics around how to be so silly and act so stupid and really not give a PHUCK what anybody thinks before your business meeting, before you go on the sale, before you get on a sales call, before you ask the woman out or the man out, and you get into your body and you elevate that energy and you raise your vibration. And it's not about scaling that. That energy is connected directly to your heart, which is one of the most powerful frequencies in the world comes from the EKGs in the heart. So if you don't use it, then you're just not using one of your main resources. That little knock on your do, 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 do. Pick me. What's connected to your heart? So artist power is a transformational space that develops creators and teaches them the tools on how to gain radical confidence, on how to be bold in their purposeful life. Not what everybody thinks they should do. I'm talking about that little voice that's been speaking to them since they were a child that they've never given themselves permission to. And when you're surrounded around other people that then start to click and then start to wake up and then start to tap into that magnetic energy that you once had as a child, that's your real power. So the artist is the little kid who remembers. And when you really remember who you really are deep down on the inside, that's the power. Artist power. That's my company.
Yes. And we're all artists.
Everybody, including the mother that, oh, I really would like to attend one of your retreats one time, but I'm not an artist. I'm just a mom. I'm like, what? Who you think created those babies? Well, they came out of my body. I was like, do you ever make their lunches before they go to school? Yep. Who cuts them in triangles? Me. You ever match your kids' clothes? What part of you matches your kids' clothes? It's called the artist. Or this one guy was like, oh man, I just do spreadsheets. I'm not an artist, but I see what you're doing. I'm kind of inspired. Really? What font point do you use? What style of font? That's the artist. It shows up in different ways, just like the when you go and it's all these different music. I mean, all different music style, jazz, trumpet, trombone, and you just when the maestro is what's the thing?
It's conductor.
But he's conducting the what? Yeah, the orchestra.
The orchestra.
It's all different type of instruments, all playing music.
Mhm.
So whether it's PowerPoints, doing things for your kids, whether it's a visual artist or singing or a martial artist, we're all creators. Even to exist, if you have a thought, what part of you did that come from? I don't nobody know where ideas come from. It's called the creator. And so, that's why we created, it's a global movement called Tribe of Creators. And I wanted easy access for people to just come in and develop the creator inside of them and be on these live calls and be a part of the Telegram channel. We have an offer. It's $9.95 a month. Cut half of your Starbucks and change your life for that. But then there's retreats. And then we have a year-long mastermind called Tribe Mind. It's very circular. It's like I teach some magical stuff, and then the next week I have one of my powerful industry friends that come on. Last week we had Shane Heath, who's the creator of Mudwater, just had a nine-figure evaluation. He created a company out of a need in the marketplace, but it was a need for him. He didn't like coffee, so he made his own blend while he was transforming his life, and that became Mudwater. And so we got to learn from him inside and everything he did, the mindset, to create his divine temple so that he was available for the ideas.
Mm.
He taught all of that inside of Tribe Mind. That's week 2. Week 3, everybody's masterminding together to build their business. So that's the one I'm really excited about. It officially launched, but we haven't done any promotion about it. But Tribe Mind is just a magical place where the creator develops, we learn leadership, we learn ethics, we learn entrepreneurship, and everybody's helping everybody's everything. And flowers that grow together grow much faster together than they do by themselves. So it's a year long. And if you want to keep going, stay around the fire. This is what happens inside of that.
Thank you for sharing. And
Of course,
it will all be on the YouTube description or in the podcast wherever you're listening to it as well. Let's now go into expression, right?
Yeah.
We were having a conversation about physical expression. What do women say to you about fashion and their husbands?
Well, for some reason, they just was like, can you go and teach my son? I mean, teach my son or my husband. Can you go shopping with my husband? You have such a great fashion sense. I don't, it ain't fashion me. It's just an expression of my essence. I don't try to be fashionable. It's just myself. There's so many people that don't know how to take the energy that's inside, align that with a specific color, with a thread count, with a pattern. I do it in my sleep. I don't know how I know how to do it. I just know how to do it. Even in the room that we're in right now, there's bamboo on the wall. There's a turquoise piano. That's little Garrain seeing everywhere he looks that inspires him to want to create. So my outfits are a representation of my office fits, are a representation of my inside fits. So everywhere in my life, everywhere, is a representation of what's going on inside of my heart. So I just want to, sometimes people create vision boards. I don't think you should have a border on boards. I think you should create vision environments.
Ah.
And then, if you're homeless, like put a picture of the kind of home that you want, where you sleep outside. I know this because when I was homeless, living in my car, sleeping in an abandoned building, sleeping in my storage unit at a picture of a resort-style home inside of that. And what do I live in right now? A resort-style home, 9,200 square feet. There's 2 ponds in the back, a pickleball court, basketball, sauna, cold plunge, and everything. But it's not like, look at me. Like, no, this is an expression of what's going on inside. I used to sit in my beat up Range Rover. And the reason why I got this Range Rover, because it reminded me of a childhood car that I always wanted, which was a G-Wagon. So inside of not the Range Rover, but the Wrangler, the Jeep Wrangler, I would put a picture of the G-Wagon. So when I was getting in there, I was getting into my vision. So if you design your whole life around the vision that you're living into, all you're going to see is the vision that you're living into. And whatever you continuously see is what will show up as a physical world reality in your life.
If I was to pull a thread on all those pieces, it goes back to clarifying your intention and your transmission in the world, and then only trying to create that. And there's a lot of noise that happens with your traumas, with your pain, with all the things that models your unique transmission, your unique essence. But at the end, how to create your life is just be intentional.
The intention is the seed that's connected to your goal. So if you have no intention, that's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping something sticks. Your intention will always see itself through. Well, how could you say that? That's how powerful you've forgotten yourself was. Hence, that's why I created Artist Power, because we teach all this stuff. You are literally creating your life by the thoughts that you give the most power to, by the conversations that you allow to come out of your mouth, by the energy that you choose to immerse yourself in. So if you choose to immerse yourself into all this religious stuff and all this ego stuff and all this president left-right stuff and all this war stuff, and that's taken 100%. There's no vitality inside of that. You can look at, what do you see?
I see the hand, the rings, the tattoo, you, the room, the bongo there.
Well, you know my training. So anyway, the typical person would say, I see my hand.
Yeah.
And I will say, you didn't say all these other things, so you can look in the same direction and choose to see something else. It's not that you're ignoring whatever you choose to see. Whatever you choose to see, that's what will show up as a result. So even with all of these wars and all of this racism and Garrain, what do you say about all of this? Man, there's so much pain inside of the world of the inner child. The consciousness of the world of a broken child that was never seen, felt, and heard, and all they know is trouble and pain. And that inspires me to work even harder to support the inner child. And that's what I choose to see. So I'm actually not ignoring. I'm just not leaving the child like most of people's childhood was left. So they can say what they want. I think you should use your platform to talk about this. No, I'm going to use my platform to talk about the reason why this stuff is happening to begin with. And let's just take it all the way back to the root. You don't pluck a weed from the top, it's going to grow right back. Take it to the root. And then you pluck the weed from the root, and then you plant something else. And that's why the healing happens. That's why the transformation happens.
Where can people find you? How can people work with you?
I'm everywhere. I'm in your dreams. If you've seen this, I'm in your subconscious mind. You can find me on my Instagram right now. My website is going through transformation. You can find me on GarrainJones.com, but my last name is no longer Jones. It's Asé, because I no longer wanted a slave owner's last name as a last name, and then just give that frequency to my children. So we changed our name to Asé, which is of West African descent from the Yoruba people. And so you can look up Garrain Asé, ASE, on Instagram, and you can work with me. I do one-on-ones, and we just take your magnetism, the magnetism acceleration program, and then we amplify that magnetism. And I have things that I do for free, and there's on the 21st of this month. I don't know when this program is going to come out, but March 21st, we have a temple day here at my home, which is designed to clear the clutter in your life, e- e- energetically realign yourself, and create a launching pad from where you are now to where you're going with 30 epic humans. And we have retreats coming up, and then we have Tribe Mind, and then we have Tribe of Creators. So I'm just always in the work that works on behalf of our inner children. And that's where people can find me. Anywhere where you hear about inner child, I'll be there.
Any final message to a coach, healer, creator that you want to leave with?
Yeah, get rid of all the titles. The more titles you have, the less you will be free. And the more you show people, this is what I do. Let them create the titles. Oh my God, you're like the Wizard of Art. Cool, thanks. The more you get caught in titles, the more you'll be in the human. And we're everything but human, with the whole magical mechanics inside, with dreams and intuitions and everything. And so if you ever want to tap into that world that is the most magical part of you, titles can't be the limitation. The being has to be the one that's received at full capacity. Then you can be used from that version of yourself. So here's how I'm going to share with you which version of yourself can be used when it comes to the capacity to create and all of your ideas and things of that nature. I want everybody to close your eyes. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in your nose and out your mouth. In your nose. Out your mouth with a sigh. And I want you to pay attention what's going on in your body, not your mind, your body. That's where the true wisdom and intelligence is. And I want you to say this without opening your mouth or making a sound. Say these words. I deserve to be happy. And I want you to feel what's going on internally. Now say these words. I am infinite happiness, and say it with authority. Now say, I deserve to be loved. Now say, I am infinite love with authority. Now say, I deserve to be successful. Now say, I am abundant. And I want you to just pay attention to what's going on in your body. Now open your eyes. Something interesting happened. You didn't talk. You didn't make a sound. Who said that? Who heard that? Because you heard something, but nobody was talking. That version of you is the one with all the dreams, is the one where creativity comes from. So when you develop that version of you, there's more where that came from.
Thank you, brother. Till next time.
Till next time.